First of all, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Eric Dunn. I am the co-founder and CEO of Rever, and we'll talk a little bit more about what is it that we do and how we serve global manufacturing companies and supply chain companies. Prior to starting Rever, based in Silicon Valley, uh, I worked as an industrial engineer. I started my career working in Toyota Motor Europe in their European headquarters in Brussels, Belgium. I was in the quality division and was rotated in different areas of the business. Um, for those in the industry, you know that Toyota is the reference in terms of operational excellence and lean and quality and all the things that we're all trying to imitate and to replicate elsewhere. After Toyota, I worked for about 5 years at the Airbus Group, the aerospace company. I was first in the commercial airplane business unit and then in the helicopter business unit, helping lead operational excellence projects in different business areas. Some of those were in manufacturing, some in engineering. And actually, at the end, I was working primarily on business support functions, meaning finance and HR and customer support, customer service, sales, and so on, but always with the same theme of leading improvement projects. And then after working in the industrial environment, I then did a radical change in my career, joined a startup in California. And then about 9 years ago, we started what is now Rever, a platform to help global manufacturers to improve efficiency, reduce costs, and remain competitive in the global market by engaging frontline employees. Okay, so that's who I am. Pleasure to meet you. If you can, those of you who are connecting and in the Q&A, even if it's not a question, you can type where you're connecting from. I'm very curious to learn about that. Okay, let's get started with today's subject. Today, we're going to talk about the problems that are being faced by manufacturers and how we can solve them at the intersection of operational excellence, technology, and primarily through the engagement of your frontline personnel. Okay, let's get started. So first of all, as you all know, manufacturing is hard, right? And it's getting harder. I mean, it's always been complex. There's always been a lot of moving parts, literally. But right now, there's a big shift um, that is accelerating the following. So first of all, we have much more global competition in your own local market. There's a lot of mobility of companies allowing them to establish themselves in competing in your local market. So as a result, you might be having low cost and high quality players in your own backyard, right? So that's one. The other one is supply chain disruptions. And this all started with, well, didn't start with COVID, but I think one of the most recent examples was the global pandemic, the aftermath of COVID, um, global conflicts, and actually, there's a very recent example right now, especially in the U.S. with a strike. And actually, I'm going to show this slide here. If this wasn't enough, global pandemics, global conflict and wars, scarcity of truck drivers in the U.S. was a big issue at a time. Pirates in certain regions, and right now, this might be the biggest impact in the U.S. in the last 50 years. Causing this shutdown of the U.S. potentially the U.S. economy due to the strikes of the port workers. So that's another issue that we're facing. Inflation has been rampant, and especially in 2021, 2022, and we're still carrying the aftermath of that inflation, which means that we all need to cut costs, right? But of course, we've got to keep the bar high in terms of quality and delivering on time and so forth. And then on top of that, we have the issue of talent scarcity, um, which means you need to continue operating under these circumstances and solve all of these issues with even less people. So, yes, manufacturing is hard and it is getting harder. I already showed this slide, but at the same time, um, we always like to say, sure, a challenge is always an opportunity, right? And it's true that we need to navigate and adapt to these current circumstances, but it is an opportunity for those companies that are able to navigate these issues and become um, proficient in operating within these circumstances, that's an opportunity to win in your local market. If you're able to source, for instance, all of your materials and components locally and not depend on a global supply chain that has a lot of risks, that's an advantage. If you're able to reduce costs internally within your operations, of course you'll have a competitive advantage. If you're able to attract and retain talent, an advantage over other people. Now, I'm going to jump directly into prospective solutions. And this one might sound obvious, these three steps of providing an approach to a solution, but you'll be surprised at how often we skip some of these steps and how within the performance of these steps, we might make some mistakes. So I'm going to highlight this. Step number one, we got to tame the chaos, right? Manufacturing is chaotic. There's always fires in our shop floor, or in our warehouse, or the way that we provide service to our customers. And step number one is let's tame the chaos and try to turn the chaos into something that is a little bit more like predictable order. I have another mention here. Okay, yeah. Thanks, Luis. Luis sent me a message that you can hear me fine, but the chat was disabled. Thanks. So step number one is tame the chaos. Second step is once the chaos is a little bit under control, then we can focus on increasing productivity, reducing costs, doing improvements. And then finally, as a last step, we can use data to improve exponentially. And I want to emphasize the order of these steps because I've made the mistake as well in the past. Being an improvement fanatic, if you want to call me that, or a Kaizen lover, I would always say you can Kaizen yourself out of any problem. And it's true up to a point. However, for those of you who are leaders of improvement within your organizations, you may have noticed that you don't get the attention and the time of people to do improvements because they're too busy solving fires and chaos that they see on the shop floor. So the first step is to help our operations leaders or help ourselves to have some level of control of our day-to-day operations before we ask people to focus on improvement. So that's step number one. And I'll talk about how we provide a little bit of order in the next slide. Only once we have some stability, we can then help people drive productivity improvements. So don't skip the first step. And then as a third step, and a very third step, is to use data to improve exponentially. Right now, because of all the evolution in technology and how easy it is to, for instance, install sensors and try out generative AI solutions, everybody's like, data is going to solve all of our problems, and let's jump directly into gathering data and using technology to fix all of our operational problems. And I'll talk in a moment about what are the typical issues that you will face if you jump directly into the technological solutions. And by the way, I'm a provider of a technological solution, but I want to talk about the issues of jumping directly into that or the common mistakes. Okay, so these three steps. Even if you get the order right, you might still face some issues and challenges, some mistakes, things that I call the top-down or consultant-driven type of solutions. And by the way, I've been a consultant before as well. Inside Airbus, that was pretty much my role as an internal leader of change. And as operations leaders, we tend to fall on this trap very easily, the top-down solutions or consultant-driven solutions. Imagine you want to focus on turning the chaos into order. And the typical approaches to doing so, you might be tempted to do, okay, let's automate. The chaos is because we're not automating enough and we have scarcity of talent anyway. So let's automate, let's install systems like an ERP to make sure that it controls and plans and tells everybody what they're supposed to do, right? The issues that I frequently see with that is that, number one, it assumes a certain level of stability, meaning if you still have a lot of chaos on your shop floor and you try to drive automation and in this installation of software, you're going to struggle a lot. As a consequence, it might reduce agility because, in a way, you're freezing processes with automation and with ERPs and other systems like this. As a consequence of freezing processes, if you're not careful, and this happens very often, you might automate the generation of waste. So prior to jumping into automating and installing software that you hope will um, eliminate all your problems and all your chaos, make sure that you're not falling into this trap of automating waste. And I'll talk about what would be the best approaches to do before you automate anything, in order to first eliminate waste from within your processes and gather the experience and knowledge of your people in terms of the best way of doing things. Okay, that's potential problem number one, or mistake number one. Second, on the focus of reducing cost and increasing productivity, the typical top-down solutions that are now actually very hard to pull off is offshoring. And I think that with the current supply chain issues that we've seen around the world, it's very hard to justify uh, offshoring and without accepting all of the risk that it implies. So for some of you, offshoring might be out of the equation. The second typical mistake or temptation for reducing costs is just blind headcount reduction. And in most markets, in most developed markets, especially in the US and Europe, uh, it's pretty much impossible. I mean, people, and you might know this better than I do, is you're already struggling to have enough people to keep your operations. So headcount reduction, no matter how hard your CFO might be pushing, is is very hard to implement because you're already operating in a very lean environment in terms of people, in terms of resources, and that might no longer be a solution. So the typical, what I like to call the uncreative cost reduction solutions of offshoring and reducing headcount are no longer an option. So what can you do to tap into potential cost reduction levers? We'll talk about that in a moment. The third one, to use data to improve exponentially, is making the mistake of what I like to call data proliferation, or basic data capture. The, right now, it's very easy to get sensors, or even you don't need to buy new sensors. Sometimes with the existing PLCs and the existing machinery and some very simple adapters or visual controls, you can generate a lot of data. Now, most companies focus on generating data from machine status. Hey, is this machine running? Is it stopped? Was it a planned stop or not, or an unplanned stop of production? You can look at parameters of machines. You can capture, everything from temperature to noises, vibration, energy consumption. You can gather a lot of data on the output of those machines, the yield, etc., the quality issues that might be facing, and you're capturing a lot of data. What I typically see in most companies is that they gather all this data and they don't know what to do with it. And they just archive the data every 3 months because they're not able to immediately act upon the insights or act upon or react upon the problems that the data is highlighting. So the data might be very useful, but if you don't have the resources and the problem solving ability to act upon those problems, then the data capture is just going to be overwhelming and it's not going to be sufficient for improving anything. Okay, so if those top-down approaches or consultant-driven approaches are not delivering the results, they're not working as we wish, what we're proposing is more of a frontline-driven approach to excellence and to getting control and everything, rather than having management do a top-down control or top-down driving of improvement or top-down strategy of what to do with the insights of data. What if we do it frontline driven? Because ultimately, your frontline personnel, the people who are on your manufacturing shop floor, the people who are in your warehouses, the people who are out there providing services to your customers, are the ones who are most in touch with your products, with your processes, with your customers. They know what issues are being faced by the company in a chronic way or an acute way. So what does the frontline driven approach look like? In order to turn chaos into predictable order, the approach that we champion here at Rever and that what we enable as well is to provide very simple visibility of all human tasks in one place, answering the question for your employees, what am I supposed to do today? And how am I supposed to do it? You will be surprised of how many people cannot answer this question. What am I supposed to be doing today or right now? And how do I do it? So if you start with that, you'll be ahead of 90% of other manufacturers out there. So that's step number one. You could do this with paper, and many companies do so, but there's some issues with that, and we can talk about it in a moment. Step number two, once everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, what is the standard, what is their job, what are the routines they must be following, what is the data they're supposed to be capturing, and so on, then you can focus on helping to eliminate losses and to reduce costs. And the frontline driven approach to doing so is, instead of having these top down strategies and let's change vendors or let's reduce headcount, we do it from within through your people. You can empower your people to find opportunities to resolve and opportunities for cost reduction, opportunities for quality improvement, for performance improvement. Your people know where they are. You can empower them to solve them autonomously. That's another one. It's not about them sending you complaints and then hoping that management will solve those issues. You can train and empower your people to solve those problems. And then you can make it easy for your people and for your financial controllers to quantify what is the impact of those daily improvements. And we'll talk about in a moment how we help enable that. Third, you could use data in so many ways, right? The data of your machines, the data of your production output, the data that is being captured by your people. We suggest starting with the following that you see here. Focus on using the data so you can never solve the same problem twice, or that you don't have to solve the same problem twice. If you start with that, you will start avoiding the recurrence of problems. You'll start saving a lot of time of your people. 80% of the problems that your people are currently solving are recurring, either in the same production line, or if your organization has multiple production lines or multiple factories, that problem multiplies. You're solving again and again the same problems that are happening in many locations. So there's a possibility right now to use the data to learn from the global experiences across production lines, across factories, even across borders, across languages. So we'll talk about that in a moment. And that's the way that we enable through Rever these three things. Okay, now there's the issue of what I call the paper safety net, because even though there's a lot of software already on manufacturing, on the front line, on the shop floor, on the warehouse, people still lean on what I call the paper safety net. There's two parallel worlds. There is the world of what the ERP says that you should be doing and what your software says that should be happening on the shop floor. And then the world of what is really happening on the shop floor, and your people capture on paper that they then use Excel, and maybe later on they synchronize it to your ERP and your MES and all of your other systems. And the reason of the safety net, or why the paper safety net exists, is very understandable. I mean, there's a lot of software already being used for tracking materials, tracking resources, tracking the status of machines. All of that today is quite properly managed with software. So I'm not going to dive into that. What happens is that people are still managed with paper. Their actions are still being managed with paper on the front line. And there's nothing wrong with starting that way. I've actually helped to implement so many systems that help visualize indicators and status and actions and checklists and so on with paper in the past. And paper has a lot of advantages. You can do it with zero budget. You can implement it immediately. People know how to use it. They know how to interact with it. And actually, our intention of what we're trying to do with Rever and what we're trying to help our customers is keeping the advantages of paper, which is always visible, always on, always accessible. Everybody knows how to interact with paper. You can design your formats to fit the data you need in any way. And we want to keep those advantages. And if you started with that, that's fantastic. It is possible to make it 10 times better with technology. Imagine that all of those inputs that you currently have with paper are integrated through all your other necessary systems, your quality management system or your CNMS or your ERP and so on, that you can synchronize information or you can populate information automatically. So having automatic action triggers would be fantastic, which you cannot do with paper. Or providing automated insights and dashboards. You cannot do that with paper. So that's what we're trying to do here with Rever's frontline action system. And that's the theme of this webinar, is how we help our customers enact all these things of turning chaos into predictable order, reducing costs and increase productivity, and then use data to improve exponentially through Rever's mobile and web apps. You can, our customers use them to manage all the daily tasks, capture all of the inputs, and capture all of the improvements of the front line in one place. So you can drive cost reduction and productivity improvements leaning on AI. So I'll talk about how we do it in the next few slides. Another important part is the integrability of Rever with all of the other systems, because we can help provide a bridge between all of your legacy systems, whether that's your ERP, your quality management system, your maintenance management system, or even Microsoft Teams and all Microsoft Office, how you build a bridge to your shop floor, which usually has zero technology. So we can help build that bridge. Okay, so in short, and we're going to dive now into how we help our customers do this. We provide a digital platform that helps you improve efficiency, reduce costs, remain competitive through the most valuable asset that you have, which is your people. Your people know your customers, your processes, your problems, your products better than anyone else. And we're already working with a global network of world-class companies that are taking this frontline-driven approach. We have a lot of customers in the automotive industry, in the food and beverage industry, chemicals, medical equipment, and we have a lot of SMBs, of course, working with us. And Rever is already being used in more than 2,000 sites around the world, in over 70 countries, in over 20 languages. So this is not just wishful thinking that, hey, wouldn't it be nice, wouldn't it be interesting if we could do something like this? World-class companies are already doing it in different countries, different company sizes, different verticals. This is something that you can do universally. And it delivers results. If you look at the top section of the slide, this is like the tip of the iceberg that you see in terms of benefits with Rever. Our customers typically see a 2-month payback period of whatever they invest in our platform versus the ROI. Usually we see more than $7,000 of savings per active user. To be precise, our data shows $7,021 per year per active employee, which typically represents 17 times the investment versus the savings. And all of these savings, sure, some of them come directly from cost reduction ideas that your people might be having, and they implement it and they reduce the cost of materials and so on. But most of these savings really come from small improvements and small efficiencies coming from day-to-day operations on the shop floor, meaning how you do your shop floor management meetings, how your supervisors do their daily checks, how the supervisors do their standard work and Gemba walks and so on. On the quality front, how your people do product inspection instead of doing it by paper, how you do your quality audits, how you do complex problem solving at the root cause, and how you ensure they don't reoccur. On the continuous improvement front, of course, idea management, daily Kaizen, 5S walks, Gemba walks, and cost reduction initiatives. On the safety front, people are using Rever to drive behavior-based safety, identify hazards and risks, make sure you do compliance audits, and the same on maintenance, how we help people be much more proactive, much more autonomous, that they don't have to rely on maintenance teams, but that they can do it on themselves, right? So again, to remind you, this is the 1, 2, 3 approach, simple visibility of all human tasks in one place, eliminate losses from within, and using the data to improve exponentially. And the way and we'll show you how the system looks like in a moment, but let me do a quick summary of the functionality that we just released. In order to provide you with a simple visibility of your human tasks in one place, we really mean all human actions. I mean, daily tasks, jobs, routines, workflows, requests to other people. Also the digital capture, whether that's input forms, inspections and audits, checklists, and customizable tracker boards. Every different area of your operation will need different type of visibility of all their jobs and tasks and so on. It's going to look very different for the shop floor management meeting of a assembly line versus the maintenance team looking at all of the events and requests that they're receiving from the operations, or how a board might look like for the finance team of your company, tracking all of the ideas for cost reduction, right? So that's how we provide that simple visibility of all tasks in one place. Second, we help you to eliminate losses from within. First of all, through your people, we help you find the hidden losses in your daily operations, where people can proactively detect and capture issues and opportunities before they become big problems. Your people always know what are those issues. Second step is, rather than throwing all of those problems and ideas into a suggestion box that nobody will look at, we help your people collaborate in real time. We connect the people who detect problems with the best people in your organization to help solve those issues. We guide them through step-by-step workflows to, depending on the problem, whether it's a real complex quality issue, we guide them through the problem definition and root cause analysis and recurrence prevention. If it's a simple fix, it's just a before and after, or if it's an improvement idea, you follow the PDCA workflow. It has all of the social media style type of collaboration at the fingertips of your frontline employees through mobile apps. And then as a third step, we make it very easy, or easier, for your teams to quantify the production impact and the financial gains of those improvements. You can quantify the KPIs that are being improved, whether it's in maintenance, mean time between repairs, mean time between failures, or yield, or scrap, or dollar amount, or whatever currency you're using around the world. Rever automatically translates that into the official currency of your company. And finally, the way that we approach data and artificial intelligence, which is all the hype right now, but we've been doing this for years, is focusing, as I mentioned, on never having to solve the same problem twice. Because if we take the knowledge of your people and then we add to that the historical data that is coming from productivity and savings, and all the actionable insights that we can provide on the shop floor to your people. These are not insights that are being received by your IT specialist, maybe in the basement of your factory. No, these are insights that are being delivered to the hands of your frontline employees so they can take action on solving issues, making the right decisions, making sure they don't reinvent the wheel when solving problems, and how you can multiply savings and best practices. Okay, so I suggest we take a quick look at it. I'm going to show a very quick 2.5-minute video that shows the basic functionality of Rever. And then I'm also going to spend a few minutes showing you live the platform. Not all of it, because it would take us quite a bit of time, but I'm going to show you the recent releases that we've made that allow you to do all these things. So allow me to share the video, and I would greatly appreciate it if in the Q&A you let me know if you don't hear the audio that I'm sharing for the video. Here we go.
Manufacturing is hard, and it seems to be getting worse. Most people take for granted that manufacturing operations are inherently messy, but it doesn't have to be this way. Rever is a digital platform that helps you improve your efficiency, reduce costs, and remain competitive in the global market through the most valuable asset you have, your people. Rever allows you to manage all the human actions, inputs, and improvements of the frontline through our native mobile apps, web browser, or within Microsoft Teams. Here's how it works. Get visibility of all human actions of the frontline in a simple interface that anyone can use. Manage all tasks, requests, routines, inspections, and input forms without paper in Rever. Enable your frontline to eliminate losses from within. Empower your people to find, solve, and quantify daily improvements. Use your data to get truly actionable insights so you never have to solve the same problem twice. Spread best practices automatically, even across languages. With our integrations toolbox, you can easily connect Rever to any system, such as your ERP, MES, quality, maintenance, or IoT systems, even to software developed in-house. You can even interact with Rever without leaving Microsoft Teams, PowerPoint, Excel, or Planner. This way, Rever becomes the friendly and easy-to-use interface to your key IT tools, even when offline or with poor internet coverage. For over 8 years, Rever has helped world-class companies to engage their people in over 2,000 sites across 70 countries and 20 languages, saving an average of $7,000 per employee every year. That's millions of dollars saved through simple solutions coming from anyone, anywhere, anytime. Manufacturing doesn't have to be messy. Bring simplicity, reduce costs, and share best practices with Rever, the frontline action system your people will love to use.
Okay, I hope you were able to see and hear that clearly. Otherwise, please let me know and we can send you the link to that video. Now, let's continue and do a very brief demo of Rever. And I'm going to do I'm not going to show the complete functionality of Rever. I'm just going to give you a little taste of what is new. For those of you who are already familiar with the improvement side of Rever, we started our platform primarily as a productivity improvement one-stop shop that handled all sorts of improvement ideas, problem solving, maintenance fixes, and inspections. And today I'm going to highlight a little bit of what is new. I'm going to give you a general tour of the platform, and maybe I'll try to spend maximum 5 minutes here. Whoever is interested on a deeper dive on the demo, you can send it over in the chat, send us an email. I'll highlight again what is our email so you can request a quick or deeper personalized demo to your own use cases and your own industry. So before I dive into, let's say, what you see here on the screen, this is the web version of the app. I'm going to start actually with a mobile version. I'm going to go full screen here. And the mobile version of our app resides as an app on your phone, whether it's Android or iOS, just like any other app on your phone or tablet. And people can access it by just clicking on it. And each person will see a personalized screen. This is going to look very different depending on who's looking at it. This is going to be personalized to the individual. In this case, I'm here as a supervisor. And first of all, I see all of my pending work here at the top. I see what we call revs. This is our word that we invented for Rever for anything that relates to improving things, whether it's an improvement idea, a problem being solved, an event being fixed, a quick action, and just do it, and so on. Tasks are what you would imagine, just a simple task that I can click on it and I can see my pending tasks I can see the ones that are assigned to me with a due date and everything. I can see here in the home screen the routines that are assigned to me or that are ongoing. What are routines? Routines are things that you need to perform on a programmed basis. And that might be once per week. Every Friday, you need to do this audit or this inspection. Or it might be on a daily basis or per shift. It might be the 5 steps for changing from the day shift to the evening shift, right? Or a self-inspection of a machine done by your frontline employee. So the routines are very simple steps to follow with the input forms that come from there. And the findings actually are problems and observations and nonconformities that your people find by performing routines. So you see a summary of your pending things here. I can see the routines that have been assigned to me right here. And here's something interesting. I can access these routines and do a lot of things on the mobile app, even if there's no internet connectivity, or if there's very poor internet connectivity, which is almost always the case on the manufacturing shop floor. So I can see my routines here. I'll show you a routine in a moment. But these are some examples. This can be a shift meeting, a quality check, a 5S weekly inspection, and I'll jump into one in a moment. As a supervisor, I can see my team's activity here. Remember, the purpose was to see all of the human actions in one place. Well, as a supervisor, I can click on that, and I can see the weekly summary of what my team has been up to. As you can see in the demo account, my team has not been very active this week in terms of improvement and so on. But I can always dive into the routines that have been executed and performed. Each routine, we can see the execution dates and how many findings have been detected and resolved or not. I can go here and see all of the findings that might be in progress, the fixes that people are doing. The revs are all of the improvements that people are working on, whether they're being completed or not. I can see what my team has been up to and really click on each of these and dive into the details of each of these things. Okay. So going back to my home page, I can also see challenges. Challenges are campaigns. They have a beginning, they have an end, and some examples are like, hey, let's reduce the water consumption in the production process, or I have a VAVE initiative in a component, or maybe I want to reduce, let's say, the scrap of a production line. I can launch a challenge, and if I go into the information section of the challenge, it has start date, a finish date, description, who launched it, what KPIs we want to affect, if there's any rewards, if this is optional, if I want to provide any rewards to the participants. I can see all of the ideas that are being generated for reducing the water consumption in this case. There's a comment section where people can come in and participate. So those are the challenges. Another section here in the home screen are the recognitions. These are usually peer-to-peer recognitions about thank you for helping me out, or thank you for solving this problem. And at any point in time, I can click also on the plus button here and generate a task, perform a routine, a quick action, an improvement idea, a challenge if I'm a manager. So this is a quick overview of what is in the home screen. I'm going to show just a quick example of a routine. If I go and start the execution of a routine, it gives it a name. It's October 2nd, 10:42 local time where I'm at. I can just click on start that routine, and it's going to load the questions. Right now, they're all compressed by sections. I can provide the start of shift announcements. I can see there's a questionnaire here in terms of have there been any accidents or incidents or not. If the answer is no, then I continue. But for instance, there's a required question. I cannot leave it blank. If there's a near miss or an incident or an accident, it's going to force me to create a finding. So okay, I go ahead and create that finding. Usually what I do is I take a photograph, and I'm here in the meeting room. And the issue here is that we have all of these cables that are, let's say, out of order, right? And it can create a safety hazard or a fire hazard. I can annotate this. I can add some text. Cables are messy, and I can change the location or the design of this with a few clicks very quickly. And why not? You can even have fun expressing your emotions with an emoji. Capturing problems doesn't always have to be a mess. I'm just gonna click here and go back to just saving the photograph of the finding. So messy cables. And there you go. The finding is going to be saved there. It's going to ask me to take a picture of all team members wearing their personal protective equipment. There's a photograph or an image for reference. And there's different types of inputs that you can create here, whether it's just yes or no options. There's also the possibility of capturing, let's say, a number scale here through a bar, or maybe just inputting text etc. So if I try to complete this routine without all the mandatory questions and inputs, it's not going to allow me to complete it, but I can just click save and I will continue later. This will remain there. My findings will remain there to be assigned and resolved by the appropriate person. And that's just one quick example of how the routines look like. I'm going to go now show you very quickly. I promise to do a very short and quick demo. We can dive into our demonstration deeper later by those who requested. But I want to emphasize, besides the home screen that you see here in Rever, and there's validation of savings, and I can see my team's activity and so forth, I'm going to emphasize a few things. One is the custom tracking boards that I mentioned. This is something that is brand new in Rever that allows you to track all and visualize and track all of the activity of your team members, whether that's simple tasks, a shop floor management meeting, a maintenance events and requests, an improvement tracker. I can create a board either from scratch or from a template. Right now, I'm going to create that one called operational oversight, which typically allows me to see the routine executions and the process findings. I click on that, and it automatically creates all of this table view with the filters, where I can see the started routines but not finished, the completed routines. I can see them here. I can see the findings that have been marked as high priority in this column here. All other identified findings are here. Resolved findings, I can find them here. And if I wanted to, let's say, add another filter column, I can go here and say, let me see, safety related stuff, right? And I can add a filter that is in the category of health and safety. And I can add more filters if I wanted to, right? I can see the content type. I want to see only improvement ideas and quick actions, and that's it. I can add much more filters, but just for the sake of demonstration, I'm showing here safety related stuff. And if I want to move my column elsewhere, I can do so. This board that I just created is by default personal, only I can see it, but I can share it also with other people. So they can see the same things that I can see. And this can be used as a management board. Everybody has the same visibility. This is just one quick example of how you can do a custom tracking board, which then your maintenance team can do one for their requests and events and so forth. And I'm also just going to show you very quickly the task section. This is, as you would expect, a very simple way to track individual requests. I can see it as a little Kanban style action tracker board. And I can see also the tasks that I've been assigning to other people. You will always be able to track or to have the insights that you require for your team. I'm going to do just the selection of a time frame. I'm going to select what has happened since the beginning of the year on January 1st all the way up to today. And while it is already October, crazy. So if I select this time frame, and I can always see over here what has been the activity of my site. In this case, I'm in the Revs overview type of report. There's many different types of reports. I can see how many improvements have been created, completed, how many challenges have been launched at this time period, how many users have been active. And I can dive into the savings section, all the validated impacts that our financial controllers have validated as real in this time frame, and where they're originating, the categories, how they've been recognized, and so forth. And another quick example is the global overview. If you have multiple sites around the world, you'll always be able to compare how the different sites are performing by different measures, whether it's by active users or by completed improvement ideas. And you will always be able to see the breakdown of how different sites around the world are comparing. If there is any, for instance, any sort of information that you don't see in our pre-built dashboards, you can always download this information as an XLS, as an Excel sheet. You can connect it to your preferred business intelligence tools like Power BI, etc. And I'm going to stop sharing this. I mean, there's so much more I could potentially show you about Rever. Um, but I just want to close with the last few slides of this presentation and allow you to ask any questions if there's any. Rever is not only a very, let's say, flexible tool, it's very simple and pain-free to evaluate. I mean, if you wanted to evaluate Rever today, we can set up an organization for you today. It's a matter of minutes to set up something. If you decide to launch Rever in your organization, this is not like an ERP or SAP implementation that takes years. This is something that you can go live in a matter of hours, and then your people can adopt it organically, or can help you train your people. You typically see the impact and the ROI in a matter of weeks, not months or years. And worry-free in the sense that we provide all of the end user support. We have a customer success team help you implement this and making sure this is a success. And as you would expect, we have enterprise-grade infrastructure. This is already trusted by world-class organizations, as I showed, in over 2,000 factories and distribution centers and offices in over 70 countries in 20 languages. We take cybersecurity very seriously, scalability and reliability of the infrastructure, and of course, the ease of integration so you can connect it to your own tools. Now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and maybe provide a few minutes to see if anybody has a question. I know that during webinars, people tend to become a bit shy. Don't be so. Feel free to send us a question right now via the Q&A. You can also raise your hand, and if you're brave enough, you can ask the question live. Otherwise, feel free to send us an email. I mean, if you subscribe to this webinar, you'll receive an automated email with the recording of this webinar, the information where you can send us an email and request a demo. You can also go to our website, reverscore.com, and request either a demo, request a free pilot, and so forth. So, questions, comments, issues, regrets, more than welcome to hear them. And if not, feel free to send us a message at any time. Again, my name is Eric Dunn, co-founder and CEO of Rever. I really appreciate all your time. Everybody who started this webinar is pretty much here at the end. So I appreciate your time and your participation, and I hope you gleaned something interesting that you can eventually apply to your own organization. Thank you, and see you next time.